Welcome everybody for our webinar on the MEGATRON, where we're going to go over the capture strategy for the Air Force's next ABMS vehicle. My name is David Huff. I am the CEO and co-founder of Winmore BD. I'm joined by Olessia Smotrova, the CSO, Chief Strategy Officer and co-founder of Winmore BD. We're partnered exclusively with OST Global Solutions to build this software platform and capability to bring this to you guys today. If you've been following us for a while, you know that I like to do these webinars at least once a month, and we've been kind of on a lull lately. Leslie and I have been in the lab, and we have rolled out some pretty exciting functionality through our software and building AI capabilities using our methodology that we've built over the last 20 years, and we've won over $28 billion worth of work, funded work for our clients, not including IDIQ ceiling values and all the other GWACs and vehicles. And today we felt like it would be great to go over MEGATRON. It's a massive new contract coming out, has immense national security implications, and use it as a vehicle to showcase what we're able to do. And hopefully this will help you guys as you are preparing to bid later this year if the schedule holds up. But for right now, what we have built and available for people are saving weeks worth of work. We're producing capture intelligence reports for your opportunities at scale using agentic AI research and a multitude of OSINT sources. We're doing a hot buttons analysis across government documents, and that's really going to be the focus of our webinar today and probably the main value for you guys. We're automating the customer intelligence and organizational mapping and the competitive landscape profiling with task complexity scoring. And all of this is built on our methodology that we've used to be successful and teach to some of the top government contractors in the industry. As a bonus, I'll let Olessia talk about this, what we're offering right now.
Absolutely. So we actually have a nice treat for you guys. So Dave has used our system to prepare 2 MEGATRON reports because there are 2 predecessor contracts that he's going to be telling you about today. And these reports are chock full of capture intelligence that's going to be incredibly useful for you to have at your fingertips. And we are also going to give you an intelligence report on the opportunity, your choice, for you only, for your eyes only. And that is something that you can get by scheduling a demo. So you see the QR code here, or go to winmorebd.ai/meeting and schedule a demo with us. Send us your documents for the opportunity you want us to review. Something we need is like an old draft RFP, SOUR, PWS for the opportunity you're pursuing, because some of those are task orders. You're on that vehicle. We can't see that documentation. So if you have that, send it to us, your opportunity, and schedule a demo. By the time you get to the demo, we'll send you the report and give you a chance to see our system in action and the value that you can get. And even if you don't end up signing up with us, you'll have that report for you to keep, as well as the 2 MEGATRON reports that we have generated for this opportunity. So what you're going to see in the reports is hot buttons and general win strategy, which is basically customer hopes, biases, and fears, with confidence scoring of what our system believes it's how accurate our system believes it is. Competitors with competitive landscape analysis for large and small businesses, customer analysis, scope complexity analysis with different rankings. So you are going to be able to brainstorm with that and understand how to build a solution, what to emphasize when you're doing that. Open source intelligence links, all of the information that you will need to get up to speed on. By the way, our system summarizes all of that for you, extracts all the right information for you. But at least with the report, you'll have all of that in your fingertips, and you'll be able to get caught up to speed very quickly. So do schedule a demo. We'll remind you one more time during this webinar, and you'll get the copy of the slides. You'll get the copy of the recording as well. So hopefully this is massively useful for you.
Thanks, Leslie. So before we dive into Megatron itself, I want to spend a few minutes going over the philosophy of our system and the philosophy that Olessia and I have brought to every capture effort we've done. And I think that it kind of drives the value, and that is learning about the program's history, and not just because Megatron is interesting by itself, but because a lot of the evaluation signals we've found through our system trace directly back to the decisions that the Air Force made and the problems that GAO identified in their very large program, and the structural issues that the government is now trying to fix. And really, the philosophy that we've baked into the system and the open source intelligence research and how we craft hot buttons and how we craft benefits is really finding the sore spots. It's finding the business reason behind why the government included this in the evaluation criteria or this in the requirements and not this other thing. What language did they use to phrase their problems and phrase what they wanted and phrase how they want to see things? And by understanding these core historical decisions, we, one, can make sure that we're not proposing something that has already been discounted in the past through painful lessons learned. And two, that we're focusing all of our solutions that we develop and all of our future innovations through this lens to make sure that we're aligning to the objectives. And when we do that in capture, and then we present that in our proposals, we have a much better win rate than if we just skipped it. So we're going to go over a little bit of the history, and it starts with JADC2, which is the Combined Joint All-Domain Command and Control Program. And this is the Department of Defense's huge investment to connect every sensor, every decision maker, and every weapon system across all domains into one network. The goal for all of this investment is decision advantage at machine speed. And each service got a piece of this program. So the Army got Project Convergence, which is ground-based sensor-to-shooter networks. The Navy has Project Overmatch, Maritime, C2, and Fleet Networking. And the Air Force created ABMS, the Advanced Battle Management System, as and the Space Force's contribution. So the Space Force is not running a separate JADC2 program. They are baking the sensing and connectivity capabilities into the ABMS architecture. So when we talk about the ABMS scope, we're talking about air and space. And the fundamental problem all of this is trying to solve is pretty simple, and we can boil it down to what's going on in the world right now. You can look at Iran, and you can look at, in a hypothetical fight against China or Russia, the side that can sense, decide, and act faster is going to win. Right now, each service processes and shares data through separate, incompatible systems, and that's the gap that the JADC2 program is supposed to close. So a little bit of background. Let's dive into the Air Force's part. So back in 2018, the Air Force started designing ABMS. And by May of 2020, they awarded the ABMS IDIQ. And it was genuinely innovative for defense acquisition. And it departed pretty significantly from the Army and Navy programs because the ABMS wasn't built as a single program of record. The Air Force fractionated the architecture into independently deployable components across 7 technical categories, from digital architecture and sensing integration all the way through effects integration and networked weapons. The acquisition itself was actually BAA-based IDIQ, which is a broad agency announcement, and that is a little unusual for something of this size. It was $3.6 billion ceiling. And also each awardee was eligible for up to $950 million by themselves. So it wasn't necessarily that the contractor or a contractor could get that much, but it was the flexibility that the Air Force baked in case one contractor started demonstrating substantial capabilities and they wanted to continue to fund that. So some of the innovations that Air Force brought was they started introducing the government-owned data, open interfaces, and trying to prevent vendor locked-in using sprint-based on-ramps aligned with combatant commander exercises. So here's the kind of but that we're going to get to later. There was no dedicated upstream capability. There's no architecture and modeling vehicle. There was no rapid prototyping scope. If you wanted to design the architecture and then build it, you had to do it both through this one operational vehicle. And also, no one had consolidated acquisition authority over the whole program. And those two gaps are going to drive everything we talk about next. And the same month that the ABMS IDIQ was being finalized, GAO published an audit of the ABMS program specifically, not JADC2 broadly, but the Air Force's ABMS system. The findings were pretty brutal. So 5 major findings. There was no firm requirements document, no technology maturation plan, no cost estimate, no affordability analysis, and fragmented acquisition authorities with no office in charge. And we provided the GAO report here. Our system pulled it in and analyzed it for us. And in 2021, Congress slashed the ABMS budget in half. GAO recommended quarterly congressional briefings on ABMS progress. And Congress was basically telling the Air Force that if you want funding, you need to show results or we're going to cut it. And it's a pretty big deal. So that mandate of show the results is going to echo through all of the evaluation criteria that we're going to look at in the reports that Olessia talked about earlier. We go into deep detail about that for the amount of material we have to cover right now. We don't have time to go through it all. However, this mindset is going to drive how MEGATRON is evaluated. So I want you to keep this show results or lose funding in the back of your mind. So what did the Air Force do? Well, they got the message, number one, and in 2022, they tried to fix both problems at the same time. So fix number one, consolidate authority. In September 2022, Lieutenant General Luke Crosby stood up the PEO C3BM, a dedicated program executive office for command, control, communications, and battle management. And for the first time, one office is going to own the entire Air Force Battle Network mission, which directly addressed GAO's finding about fragmented authorities. The second thing they did, fix number two, is they filled the upstream gap. And in December of 2022, the AFL-CMC's Architecture and Integration Directorate awarded the XA IDIQ with a $900 million ceiling value, and that scope covers concept, development, systems prototyping, and synthetic environments. There were 93 initial awardees that were then expanded to 159 by July of 2023. So now we have the full life cycle covered, the architecture and prototyping on the XA vehicle, and the operational development and fielding on the ABMS vehicle, right? So this is good news, right? So we're solving the issues that GAO is bringing up. The bad news is that there's still 2 separate vehicles managed by 2 separate contracting offices with 2 separate awardee pools. And that's going to become the central problem that we're going to talk about here in a minute. So the persistent gap is GAO didn't just go away. They come back with more audits. And GAO recognizes that there's progress on the organizational structure. The C3BM is up and running. However, the report still, this report finding says that there's still no operational ABMS capabilities delivered to the warfighters. It's improving. We don't have results yet. So we go again. April 2025, GAO goes broader. The report looks at all of CJADC2, not just the ABMS, and they find that CJADC2 initial capabilities document was finally signed in October of 2024. That's good, but DoD still has no overarching framework to guide C2 investments or track progress. Each service is still pursuing JADC2 largely in isolation. The Air Force started ABMS in 2018, 3 years before the JADC2 program was even approved. And in July of 2025, the DoD Inspector General confirms the cross-service coordination failures in mission partner information sharing. Same problem, different auditor, but this time Congress doubled down and they doubled the budget for ABMS RDT&E increase in fiscal year 2026. So Congress and GAO looked at the problem. They said, hey, we're past this, prove it or lose it. We believe in the mission. Now we need to deliver. And that's the major shift here and the most important context for understanding how the MEGATRON proposals are going to be evaluated. So as we look at the contractual issues that I talked about before, this is kind of where it all comes together. And for anybody briefing or evaluating bidding on MEGATRON, this is something that where a lot of the why and the so what of why MEGATRON is being built comes into play. So like I said, we have two vehicles. We have the XA IDIQ and we have the ABMS IDIQ. However, there are some structural issues that the contract structure has created. These two contracts are run by different contracting offices with different authorities. So first is there's a life cycle gap. So theoretically, a company could win an XA IDIQ task order to design and architect a new capability. But now it needs to move into operational development. But that's on the ABMS vehicle, right? So what if that company that did this amazing design and architecture isn't on that vehicle? Well, you may lose the institutional knowledge by doing the transition or some contracting gymnastics to keep the original firm involved. That's not good. Second thing that happened is there's intellectual property fragmentation. So the two contracts negotiated at different times have different data rights posture. Architecture, IP under one set of terms, operating system, IP on another, right? The third was the associate contractor agreement. So there were a lot of Q&A, a lot of questions and answers around this when the XA IDIQ came out about how the government does not want vendor lock and they do not want restrictive teaming arrangements. So they're going to look poorly on locking in critical subcontractors to make sure that the companies can share across portfolios. The fourth was budget inflexibility. So two separate ceilings meant that PAE can't shift the money where it's needed most. So if we want to go more into some scope of work on the XA IDIQ, we may not be able to because that ceiling is getting pretty tight. And then the fifth problem that it created was the accountability gap. So it just adds to the complexity. It's almost impossible to trace investment from upstream architecture all the way through fielded capability, which is exactly what GAO and Congress have been demanding since 2020. So the acquisition structure that the Air Force built to create this integrated battle network itself was fragmented. And this is what MEGATRON is trying to solve or resolve. So in 2025 and 2026, the Air Force makes two parallel moves to fix these problems. On the organization side, the PAE model in January of 26, C3BM transitions from a program executive office to a portfolio acquisition executive. Brigadier General Voorhees, I think that's how you say his name. I apologize if I butchered it, takes over in February, and the language he uses matters. He called acquisition a warfighting function, and he talked specifically about prudent, calculated acquisition risks to crush the operational risks our operators face every day. And this is not typical bureaucratic language that we hear from acquisition professionals. This is somebody who sees acquisition speed as a combat capability that can enhance our warfighters. And then on the contractual side is MEGATRON. So announced at the C3BM engagement day in February, one vehicle, $4.5 billion ceiling, full scope, covers concept through fielding. It absorbs both the XA upstream scope and the ABMS operational categories into a single contract. And it resolves many things. So one awardee pool, no life cycle handoff between vehicles, uniform IP and data rights architecture to fielding, single ceiling that gives the PAE budget flexibility and accountability trail that PAE can take to Congress and GAO, showing here's the architecture investment, here's how it matured, here's the fielded capability it produced under one contract. And this is why Megatron exists. This is not out of administrative convenience, but because the mission demanded it. Modern combat capabilities require a faster development, testing, fielding cycle, learning cycle. So just kind of a summary slide. We're taking both the ABMS and the XA IDIQ into Megatron. So our timeline right now is ABMS IDIQ runs through 2030. So the first 5-year base period expired. Orders are allowed through 2030. There's no new on-ramps. The XA IDIQ ordering, the base period runs through November of 2027 and options potentially through 2032. Megatron is going to succeed both. And that RFP is projected in September of 2026 with awards anticipated in October of 2027. And the government is considering both an unrestricted pool and a dedicated small business pool. All three of these vehicles are going to coexist for a period as of the plan right now. Obviously, these are subject to change based on industry feedback. Megatron runs alongside the existing vehicles until their ordering periods expire and then assumes primary responsibility. This is a transition vehicle, so likely we'll see the slow ramp up on new vehicles that we typically see on vehicles of this size. So as awards expire over here, we may be seeing them come out on Megatron when they get recompeted. So quick summary real quick. I want to walk you through the 7 technical categories for ABMS because Megatron retains the same structure. Category 0 is the digital architecture, standards, analysis, and concepts. This is the modeling, simulation, trade studies, and standards work. Think like digital engineering at multiple security levels. Category 1, the sensor integration, hardware and software, sensors with an emphasis on open interfaces. Category 2, data, cloud-based repositories, AI, ML, algorithm development. Publish, subscribe architectures for military decision support. Category 3, secure processing, which is the multi-level security piece of this, moving data seamlessly between classification levels across the entire network. If that doesn't work, nothing else will work. Category 4, connectivity, the transport layer. This is the line of sight and beyond line of sight networks with an emphasis on low latency, anti-jam, and low probability of intercept. Category 5 is the applications. This covers the distributed C2 apps, cross-domain, data fusion, human-machine teaming, and Category 6, effects integration. This is the network weapons, autonomous platforms, C2 deconfliction, and near real-time mission feedback. Now, something to emphasize here is that across all of these requirements, there are cross-cutting requirements for open architecture design, government intellectual property rights, and the associate contractor agreements that I talked about earlier that allows for flexible teaming and bringing in companies from outside the vehicle. So if it's not your original team, as you are progressing and bidding on new task orders as they come out, you will be able to add companies to your vendor pool, your subcontractor pool, as you need them. So Air Force is really trying to bake in a lot of flexibility here. So something to keep in mind, and this is something that a lot of, especially large companies, will potentially have heartburns with, especially the corporate lawyers, is the proprietary lock-in at any point in this architecture. That is against the fundamental design philosophy and what the Air Force is actually looking for. So go in with eyes wide open that if that's going to be an issue, get your corporate legal to work on that problem now of what you can bring and what you can develop and what you can bid. So to go over real quick, the XA IDIQ has 3 categories, and they map into the Megatron structure in important ways. So category 1 is the capability development and development planning. That includes concept development, modeling and simulation, future technology integration, and systems engineering, all the way through low rate initial production. This maps primarily to Megatron category 0, but it really feeds all 7 categories because every technical track needs this upstream planning. So this category 1 is going to be everywhere I think, in the Megatron scope of work. Category 2 is the systems development. This is where the prototyping happens, rapid prototyping, additive manufacturing, open source infrastructure, COTS and GOTS integration. So under the current structure, a sensor prototype and secure processing prototype both compete under XA category 2, even if they feed completely different ABMS operational categories. So that means is under Megatron, that prototyping work will live within the relevant technology category. So it's going to focus the acquisition and focus the technical capabilities a lot better. And I think it'll make it easier for industry to assemble the best partners that are specializing and producing and producing the best results in each of these technical areas, right? So I think that this is a real win-win for win-win-win for the contractors, the Air Force, and the warfighters. The SAL explicitly calls for platform agnostic synthetic environments, and that's category 3. So the future for test of combat aircrafts and training of personnel falls into this. And this is about digital twins, distributed test environments, multi-domain training simulations, which are at the core of the Air Force's modernization priorities. And here's the thing about XA. The base period is running through November of 27. So they're actively soliciting task orders. If you are on that vehicle, anything you win now will position you for the Megatron competition when it comes up. And the same with the ABMS vehicle. So real quick, before we go to the customer hot buttons, give you a chance to schedule the demo again. Again, we have detailed reports on both of these that go through the customer organization. I don't have the slides in here about who the key personnel and decision makers are who are influencing these requirements. They are in the reports, though. If you would like to schedule time with us to meet, we will send you these reports. Also, send one of your live opportunities to us. All we need is the old or draft RFP. So if you have the old solicitation, that's great. If there's a draft solicitation, that's great. We have done these reports for companies where we have simulated the statement of work. So if it's a brand new opportunity, we're able to do that too. It's just not as, it's better to have this statement of work. You get more detail, more fidelity on the confidence rating. So 2 Megatron reports, one on the ABMS IDIQ and one on the XA IDIQ. So one of the core philosophies when Olessia and I started building our system back last August is we are making the assumption, we're making a couple assumptions about capture managers and about BD executives. Sometimes you have so much going on that it's difficult to focus on an opportunity and really dedicate the brain space to what to do next. So our system solves that problem by telling you what to do next. And the second problem that it solves is, and the second assumption that we made when designing this system is that the majority of capture managers, business development people, generally don't have the budgets they want and don't have the resources they would like to have to meet the growth goals that are put on them. And as to our knowledge, nobody in the industry has solved that problem yet. All of the other AI systems require you to be the expert and you to drive the execution of whatever AI tool is there. The goal of our system is to do the work for you. As soon as you put the opportunity into our platform, It produces these intelligence reports as we are building in our capture win probability and our capture status. We will be able to guide you through what to do next and show measurable results on the win strategy. So all of that intelligence that we currently just went through and all of that opportunity history was designed by the Win More BD system. And we do all of that research. All of this came from open source intelligence. And we do all of that research and identify customers so that we can find specific hot buttons. The thing that makes proposals persuasive is designing your win themes and designing your solutions around the specific customer hot buttons. Those are the things that matter. The clear plans and the proof points are there to support the fact that you are going to deliver exactly what this customer wants. So what we did is, this is just a quick summary of the hopes, fears, and biases that we've collected from the research above. The reports that we've been talking about this whole time go into a lot more detail about each of these, and where the sources came from and why they are so important. So the top three primary hopes is, a hope is what the customer wants to achieve. It's aspirational outcomes that they're investing in. So they're spending all of this money. What are they going to get for it? Top three hopes are sensor to shooter decision advantage at machine speed, bridge the valley of death from concept to feeling, and transformative synthetic test environment. Fears are what keeps the customer up at night. It's the risks they're trying to mitigate. And the top three fears that we identified are perpetual experimentation without fielded capability, cross-domain integration failures, and congressional scrutiny of the growing ABMS budget. They need to show results. And then what are the biases? And these are the institutional preferences that shape the evaluation, even if it's unwritten or unstated in the RFP as a specific requirement. The top one is the deep commitment to open architecture and government-owned intellectual property. The preference for exercise-proven solutions over paper proposed. So they are less interested in theory written on paper and more interested in what you have achieved. And that's going to be critical as we are shaping our past performance narratives that will go into the MEGATRON proposal. DevSecOps is a baseline, not a differentiator. This is the single requirement across all of the scopes of work that we saw. So I am extrapolating that from the evaluation criteria of the XA IDIQ, and we have more detail in the reports if you'd like to read. So our system finds the top hot buttons and the benefits. So I'll just go over the top two hot buttons real quick and explain to you what we have pulled out and what is in our system. So the experimentation trap is the number one thing that we've identified as the hottest of hot buttons, the most important one. This is one that will absolutely need to be addressed in our executive summary and in our summaries. And this is a fear. So this C3BM fears ABMS will remain stuck in experimentation without fielding operational capability. The 3 GAO audits found no capabilities delivered. Congress slashed the funding in 2021 and doubled it in 2026, signaling that they believe in this program, but the Air Force needs to deliver. And the MEGATRON single vehicle structure is a response to this. What's the benefit that we need to provide in response to this? Well, as contractors, we accelerate the transition from demonstration to fielded capability through milestone-driven development with operational validation gates at every stage. Architecture through fielding within one contract. So every MEGATRON dollar produces warfighter-ready capability on timeline that outpace adversaries. This is what the government wants. I don't know how to deliver this. How company A offers to solve this problem is going to be different than company B. But this is what the government wants.
And Dave, the next steps, can you go back to the previous one, please? As far as next steps from a capture strategy perspective, so your job is to essentially, the way that this process works, right? So once you know what the government wants, you bring it into your brainstorming session and you organize your brainstorming session around that particular hot buttons. What do you know about this? What is the story behind the story that's going to inform this? So usually a hot button has a lot of the detail from your human intelligence that you can bring to bear in order for you to ferret that out. And then when you are able to devise the benefit of what they really want, then you're able to then say, okay, well, do we have this or not? Because a lot of companies start out with what they have or what they don't have and try to sell it to the customer. Now, this is not going to be easy to do, right? So from developing a transition, a convincing transition story in this particular case. So you're going to have to figure out what your solution is and how you're going to brainstorm on that. AI is incredibly helpful with that process. And we do have an AI solution, a bit assistant inside our system that's able to help you brainstorm on that. However you want to do it, the old way through the post-it notes or mind mapping or whatever techniques you want to use, or use AI and bring AI into this process, you have to resolve that, as this is one of the burning issues for this contract. Over to you, Dave.
There we go. Open architecture and government intellectual property rights, and there's a clear bias towards the open architecture in government data ownership, and that's foundational identity, not just a preference. Both predecessor SALs demanded unlimited rights, prohibit exclusivity, and require cross-vendor collaboration. And the benefit we need to provide is unlimited government rights with open interfaces from architecture through fielding. No proprietary dependencies, so the government retains full architecture control and can recompete any component without vendor lock. In our reports, we have, I think there are 7 hot buttons and benefit statements in the ABMS, and I think there are 5 or 6 in the XA IDIQ. Certainly a lot more. So what I want to do, give you guys an opportunity again to schedule time with us if you would like to, and then I will open up the floor for questions.
David, there was a comment here saying you forgot Bold Quest for coalition. So you want to say something about that?
Where did you see that? Oh, here we go. Wow. Okay. Forgot Bold Quest for coalition. Yeah, I did. So I didn't make it into the slides. So absolutely. Coalition partners have their own piece of this. So appreciate it, Brandon.
All right, so there's some more questions here. Is MPE contribution to CJAD2?
I think he's just making a statement. It's the MPE contribution to CJAD2.
Okay.
So yeah, there we go. It's the part I forgot. Do we know what system is being used to intake offers? No, I assume that when the next industry day that comes out sometime in the summer, hopefully we'll get more information on that. Maybe it will be Symphony, not sure. So hopefully more to follow on that. So check over at the Q&A. The chat's pretty full. To your knowledge, has Megatron gone through mandated Doge scope review? Is this a real requirement? I would assume so. I can't say based on what I know if it's gone through the scope review. I know that the budget is in the next year's budget is $550 million for this. For the ABMS. So I would assume so. I'm not 100% sure. I did not see that anywhere in the OSINT that we pulled. So I think that this is a pretty real requirement that matches what leadership is trying to accomplish. Any overlap with Shield and Golden Dome, given the increase to 185 billion ceiling, I would bet there will be duplicate efforts through task orders. Yeah, there might be. That's a very good question. There could be overlap, yeah. Is your AI intended to use just RFPs or also internal meeting notes for additional context? We are working, or I'm sorry, right now we can take internal meeting notes, process those just fine. Olessia is working on her document parser of all of the different kinds of solicitations, but yes, we can work meeting notes. There's actually buttons specifically for upload brainstorming transcripts in the system.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. We process all kinds of documents. The system recognizes them on its own. And you can also kind of tell the system what it is, because sometimes those things are confusing, especially unstructured documents that don't have like predictable kinds of sections where it's harder for the AI to recognize what the document is. So the system takes into consideration all the information that's provided and generates a report on the opportunity. We're building capabilities in the system where you literally are going to be able to do dynamic capture, meaning that you're going to be coming into the system every time there's new information, you're going to know about that. And it's going to impact all the strategy dynamically. And you're going to see those impacts propagate through the system. So that is something that we're building. And that's a developing capability. Right now, we're able to produce pretty cool reports for you on the opportunity, which you're going to see the examples of. So
Next question. Can you weigh documents based on general versus specific feedback from known contacts?
What do you mean by weigh documents? Like we look at different scores and we look at, for example, at the task complexity scores and things like that. But what do you mean by weigh documents? Like more relevant information from sources? Yes, we actually do a confidence scoring. That's how we do it. And can your tool align, let's say, current capabilities slick sheet a company has and align those with the submitted RFP, RFI, etc.? We're building this capability. So we are going to be ranking your capability against each task area that are going to be based on your past performance write-ups, on your CPARs, on your contract sales, your capability statements that's going to be lower scored past performance if that doesn't appear in any kind of write-ups or statements of work that you already have. But that capability is coming online sometime in the summer. So that's a developing capability that's going to be adding to already awesome kinds of capabilities that the system has.
Our vision for that is that you would be able to upload like a capability statement of a potential partner and see how that adds or changes your score across task areas in terms of coverage and what kind of past performance it is. So we've linked our system to USA Spending and SAM.gov so that we can pull the archive contracts and be able to get that information into our analysis as well.
So we have a lot of data that goes into the system as well.
Looks like we have some stuff in the Q&A. Many companies mandate that competition-sensitive or proprietary info, content of internal meetings, notes, etc., may not reside on AI systems outside the company's own IT infrastructure to minimize risk of ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, etc., aggregating vast amounts of data on different companies, strategy, pursuits, priorities. How would your capability deal with that concern? So we don't use any of those systems. Our system is built in AWS, and we use one of their technologies called AWS Bedrock. So all of your data sits above, and then whatever LLM and AI capabilities we're using for whatever task gets piped in to do the work, and your data never leaves your system. So
Yeah, and
that
those
is,
agreements with those LLMs basically preclude them for using that information from for training data.
yeah.
So
So we are pursuing our FedRAMP equivalency certification. Should have that in the next few months. So
yeah, but in the meantime, you don't have to put anything of yours into the system. You can still use that system to go ahead and give you pretty awesome capture reports, as you can see, and get yourself a sample off that are going to move you along tremendously on all the efforts that you pursue.
yep.
And it's a secure system, so.
So the question is really being able to do this type of analysis at scale. The sample report that I did last week for the Navy's large training environment got reviewed by the capture manager, who said that he had done about 30 to 40 hours of research and agreed with everything we had presented to him. So if that's an equivalent for saving 30 to 40 hours of time per opportunity, that's the value.
$30 to 40 hours if you are fast.
Yeah, well, he was a domain expert, so so that helped. All right, guys. Well, looks like we are good for comments. We are going to post this video, so you guys should be able to share it with folks who weren't able to come. Again, if you'd like to reach out to us, please do. And we'll send out an email to everybody when the recording is ready. And yeah, you guys should be able to access everything. So
Yep, and get your reports, sign up for the demo.
cool.
Take us
Give
for a spin.
everybody 10 minutes back, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And I hope to see you guys at the next one. In 2 weeks, we are doing DEAMS, another Air Force opportunity. I think that's on the 23rd. So if you have not seen that, then please register for that. We're going to go over this more, and we're going to do a little bit more deep dive in the capture strategy on that specific contract. And also, if you guys would like to see us break down an opportunity, send us some ideas, right? Because I'm always looking for what people are interested in. And yeah, we're happy to do these. Like these used to take a really long time, and now they don't. It's pretty awesome. So I get really excited when I don't have to spend a week putting these together. So so yeah, appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming. Do FedSim. Well, I guess A and AS. I'll check it out. I need to look to see what the ones they're advertising. I haven't been to their new forecast since they moved them to the beginning of Tuesdays. Because they did that last year, right? Where they moved their forecast to the first Tuesday of every month, Taco Tuesday. Something like that. Maybe it was Monday. I don't remember. Yeah, first Tuesday.
First Tuesday. First
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah, I'll hop on that one in May, and maybe we'll do a webinar in May on whatever they have popped up. So that's a fun one. FedSim is a blast. It used to be last Friday. FedSim Friday, that's right. Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for coming again, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. And go have lunch. See y'all.
Bye.